to Technology and the Arts 2.0, Series 1, Episode 9. One more episode to go. I am Brian Kelly.
And I'm John Lemesney.
How you doing, John?
I'm doing well, Brian. How are you?
I'm doing excellent. Thanks for asking. No, I know what I realized. I realized when I was editing that podcast today, I was editing the podcast. Not only did I say crazy about 75 times, but I also was like, I was just like in a whole other world when you said, how you doing? And I never thanked you. I never said I was just like, I'm just trying to find this document. So it was on my mind to make sure I thanked you for when... And I did it very awkwardly.
You have to be one of the most polite people I know.
This is our second to last show for 2012, according to our plans. So
yeah, certainly not our last show, but I got involved in about 6 projects more than I needed to, and so I think that we will have a hiatus for a bit before we continue in this way with this regularity. But I certainly see it coming back in the future. And
that's good because I'll talk about it some more next time. But I'll have my Tandem with the Random podcast coming back. I'm kind of rebranding it, refocusing some things. I have some ideas in my head that I'm excited about. So.
Yeah,
so,
I mean, I think that you and I probably want to, we did this so spontaneously, and this is such a different series from what it was before, but it is more, I think, about the medium and the simplicity and offhandedness of that medium, more so than technology or art.
Yeah.
You know, we kept the name because that was ours, but it really spurred for me a whole different way of thinking about talking about topics and using the technology in sensible ways. And so I really want to say thank you so much for agreeing to do this with me and sort of getting me started on this new way of thinking.
Oh, no, thank you. And it's helped me as well. I mean, the live nature of it, it's funny. And it's one of the things I'm going to talk about briefly later on, but one of the podcasts I listen to is the Mustache Rangers, and I had it's a comedy duo based out of Minneapolis. They do a series of podcasts that are hysterical, and one of the guys was on my Tandem with the Random podcast as a guest, and they basically.
Did you just say Phantom with the Random?
Tandem with the Random? No, I did not say Phantom.
Like you said Phantom with the Random.
No, I did not say.
That could be another whole that could be like a Discovery Channel show.
Whatever. Anyway, so their whole show, their whole episode, their whole podcast is based on improv comedy, and they'll just sit around and somebody will say a word, and then that kind of just kicks off the podcast. And I was just amazed at that. The way that they just record live, and a lot of it. There isn't a lot of editing. They just are very confident in their ability to perform live, and I was like, I can never do that. But this is kind of forcing me to not really care. Just wing it, and just wing it and go with the flow. And it's really.
If we had to edit this, I mean, think about how much work you used to do in order to. You still do quite a bit of work for this, much more than I do on any of my other shows, and it's like. If I had to do the amount of editing that you did on the previous podcast, on the previous series, it just wouldn't get done because the part of the beauty and allure of this is the simplicity of starting it up and maybe throwing a header on it.
Yeah, and it's amazing. That's what I've been noticing. Like when I go and turn these into podcasts now, that. There isn't a lot of editing. I mean, there are some, long pauses and and stuff that but I'm kind of more lenient with that stuff now. I'm not gonna sweat about it. It's we don't have the And if there was somewhere where we got one on a tangent, I'll leave it out because it's not important for the audio podcast. But and it's refreshing to hear how much we both have improved. I mean, there'll never be another out. There'll never be an outtakes reel like the one from Technology in the Arts Generation 1.
Well, think about this. I mean, we have been doing this kind of thing for years and years.
Yeah, 2006. We started December 2006.
Yeah, that's insane. It really is.
So,
and I mean, you got a great deal of the bulk of the rest of the production experience. I mean, I more or less showed up and did my talkie bit and split. And meanwhile, like, you were in the background doing blog posts and doing show notes and doing segments and doing interviews, and it's really amazing the amount of experience that you've gotten in the process.
Yeah. And maybe next time around, maybe next year when we do this, we can, it'll be planned out a little better. It won't be so spontaneous. Maybe we can, get some guests involved, and it'd be nice to.
This medium makes it really easy for that. We just invite somebody else to the podcast. They don't even have to leave their house.
Yeah.
And as long as they're okay with being spontaneous and don't mind being public and live, we're golden. As a matter of fact, so many conversations I've been in where somebody will, like, for example, the Technology and the Fitness podcast. There is a Fitbit alternative, somebody who has the same kind of technology as the Fitbit, but they have more of a gamification thing on their site. Mm-hmm. They contacted me and they said, how would you like to review our product for free? We're not asking you to pull any punches. We really believe in what we have, and we think that it's a good competitor to Fitbit. And I said, absolutely. I said, maybe you'd like to come on and do an interview and do a demo of your product. And it seemed like a good idea to them. And that wouldn't have happened. We wouldn't have done it, certainly not in the same way. We wouldn't have been able to have a technology demo without some expense or some time or some effort or somebody coming in person. And as far as I know, this person's in China. So it's like that wouldn't be able to happen very easily. And now, like, they are a typed email address away from being in the face of the viewer.
Wow. Yeah.
It's amazing.
Yeah, it is. It is. It really is amazing, the connections that this opens the doors to. So, all right. So I know you mentioned you have one thing to talk about, and I really only have one major thing to talk about. So I guess I just want to touch on a couple of other things. So why don't you do you want to go first, or? Yeah.
I guess we can leave it till later, but I do have one event that I really want to talk about that is not the focus.
Not the SmackDown?
Yeah, about SmackDown. So tomorrow night, if you happen to be watching live, and I actually don't know how many viewers we have right now, probably one.
Which is actually 4 less than one of the things I'm going to talk about later. Go ahead.
But at any rate, if you see this in the next 24 hours or so, well, not 24, but less than 24 hours, the big thing that I'm really excited about is tomorrow night, myself and Kurt Williams in the Princeton area are going to be at Princeton Public Library at 7 o'clock. 7 o'clock? 7 to 9.
I think it's 7 to 9.
Yeah, 7 to 9. In the community room, we're going to be doing a SmackDown between iOS and Android. And, of course, I'm going to represent Android, and Kurt is going to represent iOS. And he accepted really casually at the request of one Janie Herman, one of my best friends in the world. And she's been a very good contact and very good friend, and she always looks out for me and gives me opportunities to speak. And this was such a great opportunity to sit and talk about the Android operating system versus iOS, because I've had this conversation with Kurt privately so many times, and I've talked with you on this podcast about Apple, and I talked with Sean on the podcast about customer service about Apple, and it seems like it shows up all the time. I'm sort of defending alternatives to Apple. And I have Apple products, and I use Apple products, but there are certain things that are beneficial in Android, as far as I'm concerned, over iOS. So anyway, I'm going to get probably a full hour tomorrow night to be able to make my case, to state my case in a not a debate format, but a one-on-one presentation versus presentation. And it's going to be, at the end of the night, it's going to be determined by applausometer, which I thought was hilarious. So anyway, 7 to 9 tomorrow night. If you're in the Princeton area, it's free, and it's guaranteed to be a good time. We're going to have a lot of fun. And hopefully nobody cries at the end.
So I'll be like, oh, I wasn't saying boo. I was saying boo Lamazny.
Yeah, right. Exactly right.
Sorry, that was a Simpsons reference that just went way wrong.
Yeah. Well, I don't really look like the
Boo Earns. Boo Earns.
So now that I've got that out of the way, I'm going to go into the focus segment. Unless you have anything to plug.
Nope. No. I'll wait till later.
All right. So let me just share my screen for a second, and I'm going to go to this video. So if you do a YouTube search on painting technique MoMA, M-O-M-A, or if you do a search for MoMA videos, M-O-M-A videos, of course, anybody who's ever been there knows that MoMA stands for the Museum of Modern Art, and they have this amazing series of videos that focus on painting techniques of the abstract expressionists. And the reason I think that these videos are so fantastic is because typically if someone talks about abstract expressionism or minimalism, they usually talk about it in theoretical terms. They don't talk about it in realistic physical terms. They don't talk about the technique necessarily. They usually talk about the ideology behind the technique. And they have painting techniques of Mark Rothko, and they have painting techniques of Barnett Newman, painting techniques of Jackson Pollock, painting techniques of Franz Klein, painting techniques of Rothko, as I said. And this one about Ad Reinhardt was the first one that I saw. I'm going to turn the audio down so we don't get the video pulled. Can you see that on my screen?
Mm-hmm.
Right, so it goes into, for example, Ad Reinhardt's Black Painting, which incidentally there's a copy of at the Princeton Museum. It goes into these 9 divisions on the canvas. It's either 6 or 9 actually. And it goes into technique after going through what we should be looking at when we look at this painting, including, photos of Ad Reinhardt doing the painting, and then a recreation by this gentleman, Corey D'Agostino, I think his name was, where he takes a small canvas and talks about the materials used, and I just thought it was a beautiful way to explain why this is legitimate, because that's one of the things that often comes out of someone's first encounter with abstract expressionism is, why would anybody do this? Or why is my 5-year-old's painting not up on the wall? Or why is this legitimate? And the way that it's explained is so beautiful and down to earth and simple that I just thought it did a great job. So go to MoMA videos on YouTube and look for their ABEXNY series, in which they go through the painting techniques of abstract expressionists. I thought this was a really good example of using technology much in the same way that we are in order to bring light to an artistic endeavor.
Excellent. I will check that out.
Good.
I just remembered one other thing, but what you're talking about kind of segues better, so I'll just go and that'll be my rant. I've come to find that I usually go on rants towards the end of these, and I didn't realize that was like a pattern, but apparently it is, because I went on the rant about Star Wars, and I think it was the second episode, and maybe it was the first episode, I don't remember. Then I went on the rant about the CNN messing up the Affordable Care Act Supreme Court ruling, the decision in podcast in the fourth episode. So I'll save my rant for later. But
yeah, we don't want to break with segment.
Yeah. So talking about technology and kind of going back to what we were talking about earlier about how this medium allows us to do this, and I not participated, but watched. I had a kind of a vested interest in both. My friend Christian Beach, singer-songwriter from New Jersey, a longtime friend.
Heartthrob.
One time music collaborator and a former technology in the arts guest. And except for our little take on the technology in the arts theme song that one time.
Yeah, I don't know why I ever agreed to that. I'm embarrassed about that, because you are a seasoned, regular, ongoing musician, and I picked up my guitar like the day before we did that and was like, oh, I'm gonna play and it's gonna get recorded for all time.
Yeah, but it was our podcast, so nobody heard it. Yeah, so anyway, that one was popular. That one actually was popular.
Yeah, I'm really happy about that.
But that wasn't the one that had your playing on it, so that was okay.
Oh, well, it all works out then.
But the Christian Beach's interview was popular. But he did the only live musical performance on our, well, not live, but you know what I mean, in studio musical performance.
If he was here tonight, it would be a live musical performance.
Yes.
And here he is.
Yeah. You know what? I'll try to do that next time around. Around, hopefully by next year. But that was the thing. He recorded a set for Blow Up Radio. There's this guy Laszlo who hosts Blow Up Radio on Live 365. And
is Laszlo the guy who used to do the Metallica sports show on 93.3?
No, not him. No.
Okay.
I know.
I think he ended up working at a bar down in Memora.
I don't know. But anyway, this guy, his wife suffers from spondylitis, which is a chronic disease affecting the joints and neck, back, even sometimes the hips. And he has this weekend-long webathon. He has sometimes it's a live set. Sometimes, in the case of Christian, Christian came in and recorded it in advance, and then he schedules it all for this weekend webathon, and he sets up a link with the Spondylitis Association of America. He gives you a compilation CD of like all the, and it's a download of all the of songs from the participating artists for a contribution. He does it every year, and he does a pretty good job with it. So Christian's been doing it. I don't know if he's been doing it every year, but I know he's done it at least 2 or 3 years now that I know of. And so he was performing again last night. It was like 6:05 p.m. Eastern time, and so tuned into that. And it was nice that I could, I haven't talked to Christian in over a year. The last time I actually talked to him was
the big blowout.
Huh?
The big fight you had.
We didn't have a fight.
No, I'm just playing.
I mean, we
I
had a
just thought it would
disagreement
be,
back in like 1990 or something, but
I just thought it would be drama.
no, no. Back in last September, I played accordion on a couple of songs when he played at Buddy's Tavern in Parlin, New Jersey, and I think it was September 2011, and I hadn't seen him since. I talked to him on Facebook, whatever, but but it was nice to hear some new stuff from him, and it just was cool that that this guy puts his passion is New Jersey music, and he has this radio station that he has dedicated to New Jersey artists, and it's a nice way to promote and support those artists, and it's just nice that the technology allows that. And then the other thing last night was the Mustache Rangers again. They celebrated the 250th episode of their podcast by doing a live show. They do live shows all the time at this, mostly at the huge Improv Theater in Minneapolis, where they're based, and that's where the Mustache Rangers showed up. Basically, the premise, which I found out during my interview, the Mustache Rangers started. It was like a gag during one of their shows. They left the stage and then came back wearing fake mustaches as the Mustache Rangers, who had kidnapped them. Like, they kidnapped themselves and said it was like these two other people. So that's how the Mustache Rangers were born. So they did this live podcast, and what was funny is that they're like, they tell the audience, "Oh, we're not only doing this live for you guys, but we're doing it for five viewers." They had 5 people watching, but I was one of them. So, I was loyal to them, but I find them hysterical. I think I was talking about the spiders that are in my house, and one of the recent episodes.
You were talking before the show started.
Yes, I know. But
you didn't say anything about.
I think I have mentioned it in the past, maybe not, but there are some huge spiders wandering around.
There's one right there. You see that one?
So if you do see a spider behind me, please let me know, like, for real. And so anyway, one of the recent episodes was a spider was on their ship, wearing a hat, wearing a fedora, but it wasn't the spider that's on the ship wearing a baseball hat. That's a pet. It was just, it's stupid, but it's funny. I find it hysterical. So it's just cool though that we have this era where we can put stuff like this on the internet, and we're mostly entertaining ourselves, but hopefully we're entertaining a few other people.
Yeah.
And,
well, I mean, you can't get more niche than what we do, Yeah. And it's really fun and interesting that we don't have to have anybody approve it. Nobody cares about whether or not I'm allowed to turn on my camera and broadcast it. That is an amazing thing.
Yep. And that was the other thing too. I mean, these guys, they did it exactly the way we would have done it. They just put a laptop, or I don't know if it was an iPad or whatever, but I think it was a laptop. They just brought it with them, put it on the stage, just use the camera from that. It was like totally like zero production values, and just put it on Ustream. So it was.
There's nothing wrong with that, though.
No, there isn't. And it made me love it even more that they did it like that. That it was really nice to see that, where somebody didn't just said, what, we're going to do this, but we're not going to spend a lot of money on it. And I guess the second to last thing, but the big thing I wanted to talk about was, have you heard about this musician Rodriguez?
No.
I didn't either up
Is his
until
first name musician?
it's no his first name is apparently Sixto, but
Sixto. He's a musician named Sixto Rodriguez.
yeah, he goes by Rodriguez. But just hold tight for a second. So I heard this. We always have like the radio on in our house. We have XPN on, WXPN out of Philadelphia, and there was a encore performance or encore presentation of World Cafe on
Not live.
Hmm?
Not live.
Not live, yeah. An encore presentation of World Cafe
Not live.
with David Dye.
With
And they had these guys on who were responsible for finding Rodriguez. And this is crazy. In 1970, he put out an album called Cold Fact, I believe. I should probably get that. Let me see if I can get the...
Yeah, maybe you can even bring in up some.
Yeah. I'm going to do a screen share. Hold on.
Sixto.
I'm going to do a screen share. So this was a photo from his 1971, his second album, 1971 album, Coming from Reality. So he put out a album in 1970, Cold Fact, and it was on the same label as Bill Withers, and he had a lot of people behind him, a lot of influential people. A lot of people thought he had, he had what it took to be like an inner city, Dylan. He was from Detroit. But the first album went nowhere. Second album, 1971, they took some guy who believed in him still, took him over to England, recorded a second album.
I'm sorry, I just want to say, at the moment, I'm far more interested that NPR Music has an iPad app.
Oh. Sorry.
It's aggravating, very aggravating.
So I was trying to see if there were better images here, but so anyway, the second album fails, and ironically enough, there's one of the songs on that album has a lyric saying something about it 2 weeks before Christmas, or got fired 2 weeks before Christmas or something like that, and his record label dropped him 2 weeks before Christmas after the second album came out.
I wonder if they scattered that trash behind him artistically.
He's from Detroit, so chances are it was there.
Okay. Well,
but
you could,
there's probably a fire off to the right. But anyway, there go the Detroit viewers.
Viewer.
Yeah. Actually, I think we're being a little. There's nobody watching in Detroit. So he basically phased into obscurity. Hardly anybody bought the record in the United States. But in the late 70s, early 80s, he starts getting some airplay in Australia and New Zealand and does a tour. He actually toured with Midnight Oil for a little bit.
Yeah.
Back, I think in like 80, 81, somewhere around there.
Okay.
But after that, it was over again. And that was it. I mean, his brief popularity in Australia and New Zealand faded away, and so he was back in Detroit as a manual laborer doing demolition, construction, odd jobs here and there, basically living at or near poverty, and or in or near poverty.
He looks like he's living in or near poverty.
What was that?
I said he looks like he's living in or near poverty.
Yeah, and this is when he had an album out. But so while this is happening, in the mid to late 70s, a bootleg copy of Cold Fact wound up getting in the hands of, I guess, a DJ in South Africa, or just in record stores in South Africa. Somehow, this bootleg got duplicated and sold in South Africa, and he became an icon, really, during, especially the anti-apartheid movement. He became an inspirational figure, and that album was on par with Abbey Road in South Africa. South Africans idolized him, and they didn't know much about him, but somehow this story came around that he had killed himself on stage, either shot himself in the head or set himself on fire. But as far as South Africans knew,
difference between shooting yourself in the head on stage and setting yourself on fire.
Well, that was like part of the mystery about him. Like they even came up with these conflicting myths about how he killed himself on stage. But that was the common thing, that he killed himself on stage. But they had like these differing thoughts on what happened. So South Africans just assumed he was dead, and but still enjoyed his music. Everybody, and then somehow, now we're back. Now we're in 1998. These two fans got together somehow and decided, we should find out what happened.
You mean like romantically?
Huh? No, they got together. These two fans got together, and decided, we should find out what happened to him. Once and for all, how did he kill himself? So they start poring over his lyrics and see a reference to Dearborn, and realize that he must be from Detroit. So,
was it not well known that he was from Detroit before?
No, because in South Africa they were bootleg copies. I don't think they had the liner notes. I mean, I don't know. They just had a name and they had the songs and maybe some cover art, but maybe the rest of the information was incomplete. But it took them all that time to even find the producer of the album. And they eventually got in touch with that person, and they're like, oh, so when did how exactly did he die? We've heard all these different stories, and he's like, he didn't die. He lives down the street. I just saw him this morning. And it turns out, all this time he was this huge music star in South Africa, and he didn't know. He had no idea, because all the sales were based off of bootleg copies. And I guess somehow in South Africa, companies had arranged for the rights, but they weren't arranged through the proper channels, or else he would have been getting royalty checks. So the guys who hunted him down, and they call him and say, your album's like Abbey Road. Your album is like the Abbey Road of South Africa. And he had a hard time believing them, obviously, but eventually, he started listening, and at the same time, his daughter found a website devoted to his music. And the website was based in South Africa, and so a quick 6-city quickly arranged tour was put together for him to go to South Africa with a band, and thousands of people showed up, and luckily his drummer realized like something special was going on, and had a friend film it. And now
wait a second, they had thousands of people show up and the video camera was an afterthought?
Yeah, because they didn't really know. I mean, even though they were told what was happening in South Africa all these years, they went over there, they're like,
so what I don't understand, though, is what the romantic couple had to do with this.
There was no what romantic couple. I said they were fans. They were two fans.
And they got together, you said.
Yeah, it was like a fan club thing. I don't know.
And then you brought up this part about the
I just
hunting
found
him
out about this
down.
yesterday. I'm trying to catch up. All I know, these two guys who were fans.
Oh, now it's a gay couple.
Uh,
There goes the rest of our viewers. Nice going, Brian.
yeah, it's my fault. Yeah, I'll tell you who's going to be booing back. Oh, Android's the best. Boo, boo.
Not that there's anything wrong with that.
Yeah. So anyway, no. So they realize something special's happening, and the drummer arranges for a friend to start filming these shows and what's going on, and now it's been turned into a documentary called "Searching for Sugar Man," because that's one of the lead track on his album is Sugar Man.
His name is Sixto.
He goes by
He
Rodriguez.
goes by Rodriguez, and he has another nickname, Sugarman.
That was the title of the first song on his first album, and that's been sampled in a few tracks now since 1998. Since
There's a spider.
yeah, you're not gonna make it out of that thing alive tomorrow night. If I find that spider, I will bring it to Princeton Public Library.
I like spiders.
I'll put it right on that head of yours. So anyway, it's the subject of a documentary that is getting rave reviews. It was at Sundance. It's been at major film festivals, winning all sorts of awards, accolades, and he's been on. It's been featured on 60 Minutes. He was on David Letterman over the past few months. Obviously, you saw the NPR story, 60 Minutes, which I may have just said, and I can't remember. But it's a real fascinating story, and I guess the technology angle isn't that it's
that. This is the part I was waiting for.
It's the fact that if the technology had existed, this never would have happened. The internet would have connected the dots a lot sooner, and I think it's just it's kind of a testament to the internet and allowing that for that. I mean, we always talk about how did we ever look stuff up in the pre-internet days? And here's a case study. It was hard. It was difficult. It was incomplete, and
still incomplete.
Yeah, but it's just it's really, you take it for granted nowadays. But he went nearly 40 years as a major star in South Africa and had no idea that this was going on, and they thought he was dead. I mean, that's what the thing is. I mean, it's not even just the guy that we've listened to all these years is coming to South Africa. This guy's back from the dead to them, and it's just it's really fascinating. And I was listening to the album today. It's really great. I mean, I don't know, and people tell you they don't know how this album did not make a dent in on the U.S. charts. I mean, one of the guys in the video, the guy gets asked, how many copies did he sell, and he's like 6. So I mean, and then this happens. I mean.
Well, I mean, that's a little bit of a statement, too, about how influential the recording industry had been all that time. It was about radio play and about advertising and about shows and about support. And now it's less so about any of those things. It's still about advertising to some degree. Sometimes the first time you see somebody on David Letterman, for example, is the reason why you decide that you're going to listen more to that artist. But how much more is it about, your favorite independent music blog or, Spotify brings something to your attention because it's related to something else that you already know that you like.
Yeah.
So much less about the RIAA.
Yeah, it's
And you rant.
well, and it's funny. He's going to be at World Cafe in the next few weeks, and it's sold out right after that 60 Minutes piece aired last month. So, and he was at Newport Folk Festival, and I have some friends of ours were there, and I asked them if they had seen him. I was hoping to get at least a a report from them, and they didn't know his story at that time,
Oh,
and now they wish that they did. But yeah. So anyway, it's just fascinating, and I can't wait to see the documentary. It sounds great. I mean, it's such a crazy story. Oh, I said crazy. Damn.
yeah.
Uh,
Well, we're working on probably 35 minutes at this point.
okay, but real quick, my rant. Those Orionids, the meteor shower this past weekend.
Yeah.
What an epic fail!
Why?
I was up. First of all, I saw somewhere some terrible source apparently had like, oh, for viewing between 12 and 2, 12 a.m. and 12 midnight and 2 a.m. Eastern time, local time. I think it was like a patch, one of the patch.com branches or whatever coverage areas, and they hinted that 12 to 2 would be the primary time. So I'm outside from like 12:20. About a half hour goes by, and I'm like, yeah, I saw some like very faint, that who knows if they were even part of the meteor shower. They may have just been strays, but just faint streaks
Strays?
of light.
You saw
Just
multiple spontaneous stray meteors during a meteor shower?
you can. I mean, if you go on Twitter,
Yeah,
I mean,
you can, but I would think that they would definitely be part of the meteor shower if you saw. I mean, how often do you see?
but they weren't. Well, that's the thing. I mean, if you're in an area where there's no light, if you're out in the desert, I mean, you see stuff all the time. I mean, we're always going through dust trails.
True.
Uh, it's just the fact that the light, because we're in such a
Light
uh,
area.
heavy pollute. There's a lot of light pollution in this area. We don't see that. But here I am looking at the stars for like 20 minutes at a time, so my eyes are becoming more attuned, and so I was seeing like just faint streaks. But the thing is, they were saying, oh, they were going to be, it was going to be a spectacular show, and really playing it up, so many per hour. So then I'm like, okay, about a half hour goes by. I'm outside still. I'm checking my phone, and I see another source that says between 3 and 5 a.m. on the East Coast. So I'm like, all right. So I go and get into bed. I sleep with my contacts in for a couple hours, and I wake up around 3.
Were these the red contacts?
No.
Did you wear the special star viewing red contacts?
No. So I get outside again at like 3:15, and again I stay out for a half hour. Absolutely nothing. Again, maybe one very faint streak of light, but no. I mean, I've seen meteor showers before. I've seen pretty decent meteor showers before, but not in ages. Like probably in my 20s was the last time I saw a really good one, and I haven't seen one since. It's always been cloudy. I just, for whatever reason, I just want to see one again, and this was such a fail. I mean, yeah, I only gave it like combined hour, maybe a little over that, but I saw absolutely nothing, and it was so hyped. I mean, all I could read was how it was going to be, all these many per hour, and
And so,
really,
did you happen to come across any reports of anybody having a successful experience?
yeah. Somebody, Mike Black, who's a photographer, musician, uh, all around Renaissance man, really. He's based, I think, in Belmar, but he's like part of the Asbury music scene. He actually opened when Christian and I saw the Tony Levin band at the Saint uh, back in 2005 or 2006 or so. I can't remember, but he actually opened for them.
So, how do you account for the difference in your experiences?
Well, he was probably somewhat further away from light sources. Um, I was outside my house. I was gonna go somewhere, but with the baby, it's I didn't want to go too far if my wife needed help. So, um, I just went outside my house, and it was pretty dark, but I just did not see. Again, maybe I just had to stay up all night. I'm sure he did, but
Hmm.
he's also, I don't know if you remember, but remember when we had that huge snowfall a couple of years ago? It was like 20 some odd inches, and you may have seen it on the news or on YouTube. He had a uh,
Stop, not stop.
time lapse
Yeah,
going into on his back porch, and
it was in. It was in. If you take 195 all the way out.
yeah, Belmar.
Yeah, Belmar. Yeah. I
Yeah,
remember that.
yeah, it's Mike Black. Yeah, he he contributes a lot to CNN. He's really into the space program too. He made some contributions to this fund that that NASA is behind, and he has like a bunch of pictures on his site. He was at dinners with Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin, just months ago. So I mean, it was kind of cool that he got to meet Neil Armstrong before he passed away. So he's a real interesting guy. He's
Maybe we should talk to him sometime.
yeah, I know. I never think about it, but yeah, he's he's in the music scene. A lot of my friends know him. I've met him a couple of times, but I'm not real tight with him. But he's a very interesting person.
Well, I think that's probably the perfect person for an interview for us because it's you're not so close that you feel like you know everything about them.
Yeah, yeah. So
And
all
all
right, so that was my tire. I'm like winding down. I can feel myself winding down. Uh, so I guess I will see you tomorrow night.
Oh, you're going to be coming? You're bringing Graham?
No. What happened was, we my wife is like, oh, I have a dentist appointment that I forgot about. They called me. It's Tuesday night, and I'm like, oh, that's the night I was gonna go see John at the library. So I'm like, I suppose I could take Graham with me, and
Yeah, I mean, it should be if feedback is any indication, it will be a packed room. So
yeah. So, but I fortunately my mother-in-law is coming tomorrow to watch Graham while I work in the house, and so she's going. We actually started preparing the dinner tonight. We're gonna do like a one-pot meal and get that ready for her, and she's gonna stay late, so Allison can go to the dentist at 6, come home, and then I'll be out watching you get
cool.
owned.
Yeah, I don't think so.
Owned
I don't think so.
by the iOS crash. Actually,
No.
that was a link I saw today too about researchers found all these third-party. Let's see if I can find it. just to give you a heads up. Did I? It was on Gizmodo. Researchers reveal massive encryption faults in Android apps used by millions.
I don't know. It's pretty hard to break encryption.
Here, I'll. Do you see that?
That sounds like, yeah, I can see it. It sounds like it's hyped. What's the detail?
I will get there in a second.
Uh-huh.
If my
I think there's a massive fault in your browser.
I think you're right. And my browser is Chrome. So yeah, researchers reveal massive encryption faults in Android apps used by millions.
I read that part.
A team of computer science researchers have revealed that Android apps used by as many as 185 million people can expose online banking and social network credentials as well as emails and IM content. Researchers from Germany's Leibniz University of Hanover and Philipps University of Marburg have identified 41 apps available on the Play Store which leak sensitive information as it travels between phones and servers. The team recreated real-life app use on a local area network and then used existing security exploits to garner
So wait a second. They're talking about specific applications?
Yes. The researchers haven't identified which apps are at fault, though they do note that some of them have been downloaded up to 185 million times. They do hint at the kind of software they found was insecure, though, detailing examples of the vulnerabilities they found. Ars Technica gives a roundup. One is an antivirus app that accepted invalid certificates when validating the connection.
So, in other words, none of this has to do with Android. It has to do with apps that happen to be on the Android platform.
Yeah, on the Google Play Store or whatever.
Yeah, but what I don't understand is how that would be held against Android. I mean, I'm sure that I wonder, actually, if the same apps are present on the iPhone.
Possible. It's possible. But
using language like generic online banking apps seem to suggest that these are third-party apps, not official software from the websites they connect to. The researcher, this is silly.
Well, I mean, that's the problem is people are going to download stupid crap on their phones instead of official apps, you know?
Yeah. This is periphery at best.
Yeah. I just want you to be aware of it.
I hope, yeah, I hope
somebody might mention it.
I hope it gets brought up.
You're going to smack them down.
I'm going to smack them down.
You're going to be an android. Smack them down.
It's going to be sad tomorrow.
I was winding down, and now I'm just getting punchy.
Punchy. All right, Brian. Thank you so much.
Thank you. This is a good thing we have only one more of these left. This is probably the worst one we've done.
It is 11 o'clock.
Okay.
11 o'clock. Told you.
Yeah. One more Stephen Hawking appearance. Thank you, Professor Falcon. How about a nice game of chess?
He's a genius, man. He's a genius.
Okay. I
will see you
remember what I was saying before about no outtakes?
Okay. I will talk to you tomorrow.
All right, take care.
Good night.
Good night. Bye.